Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb, and hello, everyone. Welcome to MotorWeek podcast number 204, and this is John Davis. Even though I sound like I've got some rather large frog or several of them in my throat today, joining us around our podcast table is writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Hello, John.
And our road test producer, Ben Davis.
Hey there, loudmouth.
And our online content coordinator, Greg Carlos.
That is me.
And you're going to hear as little from me as possible today, but we've got an awful lot of stuff to cover, and we've got just the team to do it. So we've got a lightning round, a viewer question, see if we have any rants and raves besides my vocal cords, and we're going to start, though, with some of the cars that we've driven lately, beginning with possibly the most anticipated sporty car of the last 2 years, the 2020 Toyota Supra. Greg is fresh back from driving it at Summit Point, West Virginia. Tell us all about it.
Well, yeah, it's been a long time coming, pretty much since I got here about 7 years ago. I feel like we've been really sensing that the Supra was coming, and then it was really drawn out by Toyota, and then now it's finally here. So it feels like kind of a milestone, really, for me at least. Didn't have to go too far to drive it either. Went down to West Virginia and pretty much spent the whole day at the track. At this point, a lot of you probably already know this is a joint venture with BMW, so it's very similar to a Z4. The reality is that cars like these now, they don't sell a lot, and car companies like making money. So a way to do this is to team up with another car company, and here we go. So one of the big reasons that they teamed up with BMW is that the Supra famously used a straight six engine. Well, BMW has some really nice straight six engines, and they pulled a 3-liter out of the Z4 and other ones. 335 horsepower, 365 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 is 4.1 seconds. Automatic only, it's an 8-speed. It's also just a standard torque converter, not dual clutch, which is useful on the street because if you get into a dual clutch unit, they can be kind of clunky, especially at low speeds. This one was actually really manageable. The car is really stiff, which separates it from the Z4 a little bit. And that is, depending on who you are, going to be the decision between a Z4 and a Supra, also because of, obviously, price. Pricing does start around $50,000 for the Supra and then up to $55,000 for the launch edition, which will be the first $1,500, I believe. So, yeah, just down to actually driving it, I enjoyed it. I mean, look past all of the fact that it is essentially a BMW. I mean, it is tuned differently. It sounds a lot different. I think it sounds really good. They spent a lot of time, or at least they said they spent a lot of time working on the exhaust, which has a really nice sound. It's has all those cool crackles that I like when you lift off the throttle. Great on the track. The torque, like I said, is 365, and it comes in super low at 1,600 up to 4,500. The engine doesn't rev very high, so you don't have to work too hard to get all that torque, which is nice at Summit Point because we drove on the Shenandoah circuit. Really tight and technical, and a naturally aspirated car, or even some turbocharged cars that have some trouble getting the boost up. I mean, having it all at 1,600 RPM was great. I mean, shifting wasn't that big of a deal. I actually just let it shift on its own because I wasn't too thrilled with the paddle shifters. Not that they weren't super responsive. It just didn't really add anything to it for me. They also, the shifters physically didn't feel good in my hands. But yeah, like I said, I mean, it's responsive. It's quick out of corners. There's a ton of grip. And the general consensus between me and other journalists were that, Toyota isn't just taking the BMW here and saying it's a Toyota. I mean, they've certainly made it their own, and it was pretty impressive on the track.
How about the interior? How BMW is the interior?
If you've ever been into a BMW, you're going to say, well, okay, so this is BMW, this is BMW. The screen is clearly BMW, all the switchgear, the iDrive. the looks are a little bit different. The shifter is actually the same setup, but just a different kind of housing, so it looks different. And so, yeah, it's super familiar. The steering wheel is a pretty big difference. I mean, it is. Toyota was able to make their own steering wheel, which is cool. I don't particularly like the look of the steering wheel, but at least it's very clearly Toyota.
How do you choose between the Z4 and the Supra? I mean, it's probably two completely different buyers, but if somebody's basically in the market and the price differential is not that big a deal, how do you choose?
Yeah, that's one thing that they were very thorough on explaining at the launch. So the Z4 is a roadster. I mean, it's a drop top. So if you want a convertible, then your option is the Z4. But the Z4 is also more of a touring car, whereas the Supra, it's, I guess, technically considered a touring, but it is way firmer than the Z4. So if you're into like really pushing it on the track, or just you want that sporty sport coupe feel, then the Supra is what you want. It's not as comfortable as a Z4. So really, I think it comes down to, are you into just a comfortable drive where you can enjoy the sun, or do you want something where you just hop in and you're enjoying a Sunday drive as fast as you can go?
A little more hardcore.
Yeah, sure. A little bit more raw, a little louder on the inside.
Ben, I know you haven't driven it, but between the two cars, what impresses you or doesn't impress you, but from what you know?
I mean, I've got a salty approach on the whole thing. I mean, granted, the car looks great and everything, but I'm still a little bummed out about the whole Supra nameplate thing. And if they really wanted to, adhere to the straight sixness of it and just wash all that great heritage away by going to another manufacturer for a drivetrain and platform, that kind of bums me out, because I would have been cool with a twin-turbo Lexus 6 or the V8 out of the Lexus or something, and just make it all in-house. And because I'm still a little salty about the BRZ Subaru Corolla thing. I mean, come on, Toyota, just give me something that's yours.
They've got a lot of money. What's the problem?
Yeah, dude. Killing me.
Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from. I think a lot of that goes away when you drive it, though, because it's fun to drive.
I'm sure it's an awesome car, but why put Supra on the back of it? That's all.
Let's move on to our second car this week, the totally different by every stretch, the 2019 Honda Passport. Everybody's had a chance to experience it. Brian, why don't you set it up?
Yeah, I mean, we could just do this one real quick. It's just a two-row version of the Pilot. Other than that, it's not much different. It's a little more content standard. It's got 20-inch wheels on all of them, stuff like that. But essentially, same wheelbase as the Pilot. It's just a two-row Pilot.
Yeah, it felt to me like it drove a little bit smaller.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, some people were curious about that, and again, it's subjective, I guess, but I feel like it drove smaller.
But it's got a huge cargo capacity for its size, 71 cubic feet, I think it is.
Yeah, for
all
sure.
seats down.
Yeah, and the trunk floor is the same as the Pilot, and there's no seats to store there now, so you get a huge underfloor storage bin, which I think a lot of people will appreciate.
I guess it's really just a popular segment, right? I mean, people.
Well, it's bizarre to me. It doesn't make any sense that you had to get a three-row Pilot. I mean, to begin with, there's plenty of people that don't need a three-row vehicle and just need a two-row, five-passenger vehicle. Why they didn't offer one to begin with is odd. But, yeah, it's kind of – everyone went three-row there for a while. Now everyone seems to be going with the Blazer coming back, new Edge out there, Santa Fe getting redone.
Very crowded.
Yeah, it seems all of a sudden that seems to be the hot segment now, the five-passenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never drove the old Honda Isuzu Passport, but do you think the heritage is still there? I know this is technically supposed to be more rugged.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that was a body on frame.
Yeah.
But I don't know that
many
many
truck.
people. I don't know that many people even remember it. I mean, that was early '90s before SUVs were even really that huge of a deal, and I don't know that anyone really barely remembers it.
It's really going to come down to whether or not you want that 6 inches of extra length and whether or not you need a third row, because it's actually a little more expensive and better equipped than the Pilot. So, Benny?
You guys covered it all on that one. It is a nice vehicle. I do like all the headroom in the second row.
And more legroom as well compared to the
nice.
Pilot in the second row.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a nice package.
I would imagine they'll sell quite a bit of them.
You know, there's a little feature that I honestly don't know that the Pilot had, and you can tell me. When you slide the second row forward and drop it, they've got a panel that flips up to cover the space between the second row seats and the rear cargo area. I don't remember that on the Pilot. If not, it's a nice little feature if you have animals or anything back there where you don't want there, something to fall down between the seats and the cargo area. So
I don't remember, but yeah, that's definitely useful.
it's not marked. It's almost invisible. I just reached down and said, I wonder if this is it. And
That
you
makes it
pull
a
up
very
and there it is.
pet-friendly vehicle.
Yeah, very which is another segment we're doing soon. Okay, let's move along to our third vehicle. 2019 Beetle Convertible, final edition again. Why don't we all chime in? Benny, you want
Take
to
it,
set
Ben.
up a little bit?
Yeah.
Beetle guy.
Yeah, I do love Beetles, and I like the one we had prior to this one. This one didn't feel as good as that last one for some reason. I don't know why. I think it was drivetrain related and throttle response related mostly, but it's a nice car. Hard to say. I mean, I was ready to say goodbye to it last time around, so I personally don't like the little additions that they made to this one. I think the outgoing one, the last one we had, was nicer looking inside.
Talking about our Coast long term.
Yeah,
like the wood.
I like the surf inspired dash that had, and the. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but the audio system in that one was a little better than this one around, and it just left me more impressed.
What exactly does this one add? Does it have anything specific to final edition?
It's got some different trim inside,
Wood grain
body
dash.
color stuff, and like a wood grain. The logos are a little different. It actually says Beetle on the trunk lid, which it never has before.
A
Stuff
little
like
more
that.
nostalgic.
Yeah, and that's really about it. Nothing major. And your powertrain used to be so many options as far as manual, automatic, diesel, turbos, non-turbos. Now everything is the 2-liter with auto. So that's kind of disappointing too.
And the biggest disappointment I had was the infotainment screen is it's outdated. It's not super bright or clear, and it's with the top down, it's slanted at an angle that you can't adjust. It seems to just wash the whole screen out. You can't see anything with the top down most times.
So maybe it's time for it to make an exit, but I'm not convinced we won't see a Beetle again.
Oh, I hope we do, yeah.
But it's an all pure EV.
It's still a fun car to drive.
Yeah,
I mean, as much as I hate on it,
There-
usually I get in and drive it, and I enjoy it.
It feels like a small VW.
But I'm sure there'll be a Beetle. There'll be an electric Beetle at some point.
The thing is, there are so few affordable convertibles. It's very sad to see one go.
That's a good point.
Okay, let's move on to the lightning round. Greg, would you like to handle this so I
Yeah.
can save people from
Should I
having to
try it
listen
in
to
my
me?
Should I try it in my best John Davis
Yes, you do
voice? Or
that. Do that.
No, I'm not even going to embarrass myself. So we're going to go on a lightning round.
Please do.
And covering an automotive topic that is trending. Each one of us will have 30 seconds or so to talk about it. Chevrolet recently tweaked the front styling of the Camaro, which was just about 12 months after its mid-cycle refresh. And although they haven't come out and said it, it seems to be a response to overwhelmingly negative reactions from the public, specifically to that front end, which was, as soon as it was released, was almost immediately thrown back by everybody on the internet. Style is subjective, and even some of the best designs take time to get used to. So does this set a dangerous precedent for car makers responding so immediately to the general public about styling?
Am I going first?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
This is like one of those controversies. I'm using air quotes for those of you that can't see me right now. That I had no idea about. I guess I don't spend a lot of time on social media, much to my detriment. But I didn't even realize it was a big deal. I thought it looked pretty good last when they did the mid-cycle refresh. Yeah, I didn't realize that everyone was hating on it. I don't think it sets a bad precedent, but it's just a knee-jerk reaction by Chevy that I'm not sure they needed to do.
Hey, we used to have yearly styling changes.
Yeah, people complain about that fact that we don't have that anymore.
Imagine if the Bangle Butt 7 Series was launched now in today's intense social media environment. What might have happened?
They would have taken a chainsaw to it the
It
second
took
year.
enough hit back then.
Yeah. I actually think it's good to see the automakers responsive. I think they've all gotten complacent. And in the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen more yearly changes, usually not sheet metal. But now even a mid-cycle refresh is a major change, much more major than it used to be. So I think it's good they're responsive. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see like how much more of this happens. It's one thing if the public cries out about something that is like dangerous or like, just truly depressing from a powertrain standpoint. Styling, though, is a little bit odd because, generally, at least in my opinion, some of the best designs are met with tepid reactions. So you don't want to see great designers second guess themselves just because there's an initial knee-jerk reaction. So it would be upsetting to see a good design realized years later that was never continued just because they felt they had to change it right away. I don't know. Just an interesting thought.
Remember the Edsel.
I'm wondering, since this happened so fast, if this was a front end that they had earmarked for a different, like a 1LE package in the future, something that they just
because that's pretty
switched
fast.
to.
I mean, these days that's amazing.
They must have had an
How
alternate.
different is it? I haven't even seen it. I mean, is it that different?
It's
a matter of
different enough. So they had to move. On the mid-cycle refresh, I think they moved the badge down closer to like the splitter, and then they had like a blacked out piece that just looked terrible. So then they moved the badge back up to where it should be. In your opinion.
So it's a grill.
Yeah, it is literally like a couple of pieces on the grill that were changed. It does make quite a difference in appearance, but ultimately not that big of a deal, I guess.
At least, again, they were responsive. So, okay, viewer question. Brian Robinson, how about you, Ben? You got it.
Oh,
Why don't you take it?
already.
All right, Brian.
No.
If you promise to do a JD impression, you go for it.
I'll let him.
Well, hello, and
he'll get to
welcome
do the
this
rant
week's viewer
rave.
question. Pat Goss covered TPMS, which is tire pressure monitoring systems, in a recent segment, and a lot of viewers were curious about systems that display the actual tire pressure and whether or not to trust them. Are these systems accurate compared to a standard tire pressure gauge?
What's everybody think? Brian, let's have you start.
No, they are not super accurate, but they are very close. I mean, I'm checking tire pressures all the time in long-term vehicles and personal vehicles. Not as much as we used to because we kind of rely on them now, and they're usually pretty close.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I thought Pat did bring up a good point. And again, this was a question that a lot of people had different takes on. It seemed to be in a segment that a lot of people had feelings on. Because there are so many cars, I think isn't it standard now for all cars that have TPMS?
It's required.
So yeah, I think the important thing is that you shouldn't just rely on the car because just because the light isn't on doesn't mean that your tire is not low.
Yeah,
Correct.
It takes like 8 to 10 pounds low, I think, before the
Right.
lights come on.
Last
I guess
night-
that varies.
Last night I was
My ring-
checking.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
My wife's Wrangler is really sensitive.
Our Subaru at home was 8 pounds down, and the light hadn't come on yet.
Yeah, I mean that's
a lot.
that's borderline dangerous.
Just ask. No,
Go ahead.
no, we're going to say anything about Ford or Firestone.
Okay, Ben, you're next.
Okay, does anybody have a rant or rave they want to talk about?
Because you usually do. So
I think I got mine out in the Supra.
The weather's getting warmer now, so more and more people are lounging in cars with their feet out of the windows,
Oh, jeez.
which really bothers me for some reason. And I understand it. People are probably like, well, just don't look at it or don't care. Well, you know what? And that's fine. But
There's an airbag
honestly,
problem there, too.
It does annoy me. Like, it's just disgusting to me. And I hope like a bird runs into your foot or something.
Ouch.
They actually had a thing on Car and Driver website on a picture of some reasons not to have your legs up on the dash.
There are plenty of reasons.
Yeah, it
called broken bones.
People, with their legs snapped in half.
Yeah, I mean,
Airbags.
as much as you think it's not going to happen to you, I mean, accidents do happen, even if you're the greatest driver in the world. So, stuff happens.
and if you do have them hanging out, I hope you had a pedicure.
True that.
I just admire that flexibility.
On that, I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast number 204. Thanks to audio engineer Jim Bigwood, and all of his magic cannot help my voice. Our podcast creator, Greg Carlos, and our creator, Bob Mixter. Anybody else want to add anything?
I'm good.
Nope.
Why don't you read the close? Go ahead, Greg.
What is the close? I've
Just
never read
thank
the
everybody.
That's
and
perfect right there. That was
a
a
catch.
I guess I've never really. I'm the producer now, and I don't even listen to the close.
That's why I gave it to you.
Yeah, well, you know.
Where can you watch MotorWeek?
You can watch MotorWeek in tons of places. On your local PBS station, go to our website, motorweek.org, and the About the Show page. And just type in your zip code or address, and you can find out where, when, and where it's airing. And also on the Motor Trend Network, and of course YouTube. We're there. All the social media channels, and if you can't find us, then
You're not really
not
trying.
looking hard enough.
Thanks, everybody. We'll hope you'll join us again for more of our MotorWeek podcast, and watch us every week on whatever video screen you've got available. Thanks again.
You've been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.